So Josh, I'm going to read a quote of yours. I don't know if you know it's a quote of yours, but it's you should set out to have the type of practice slash firm that works for you and your family, not the type of practice slash firm you're told you should have or that everyone else has.
Yeah. That's. I think that's one of my quotes. I steal a lot from other people, but I think that we live in a very interesting time in the world right now. We live in a very interesting profession that we have, being lawyers, and it gives us the flexibility to do that very thing.
Right.
And that's been my goal, is to figure out what is it that's best for me, for my family. I do injury work, which you do too, and
Right.
you can get overwhelmed with the billboards and social media posts and bigger. And so I think people fall into that trap of thinking that's what you have to be. My whole thing is you don't have to. Do what's best for you.
Yeah. How do you avoid that? Because I'll find myself sometimes, and it's very rare, but I do occasionally find myself, I'll see a verdict. I'm like, what the hell? It's like, I almost fall in the trap, like when's that going to happen to me? But then I'm like, that's nonsense. Quit talking. But how do you stay out of that mindset?
Boy, it's hard, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm great at it. I try. What is it? They say thief is the steals joy, or whatever that quote is. That's not how it is, but being jealous or something is the thief of joy. But however that quote goes, and I think about that a lot. It's like, just do what's best for you. Try to ignore the outside noise. Be happy for your friends, happy for your peers. There's a quote that a lot of lawyers use here in Georgia, that the rising tide lifts all boats. I don't know if y'all.
Yeah. I love that.
I love it. I think about that a lot too. It's like, we're all in this together. One person does good, that's good for all of us. Don't be jealous. Be happy, and just don't try to compare yourself to everybody else.
Now, where does that come from? Is that something, growing up, that your parents instilled that in you?
Maybe. My dad's very humble. My mom's very humble. Good family, great family, had everything we needed, but we didn't ever need more. You know, I think that you get to a certain spot where it's like, hey, we've got our basic necessities met. We've got everything we can ask for. Our kids are healthy. It's like, how much more do you need?
Right.
And so at that point, you start looking at other ways you can fulfill your life. And I guess that's what I've tried to work hard on. It's like, our kids are going to be in our house for between 18 and 20-something years, depending upon how many you have. And that's an important time in all of our lives. And I just made the decision that I'm not going to sacrifice those years.
Yeah. Why personal injury?
Well, I guess I can back it up to why law school. I went to Georgia, we talked about that, and then loved Athens and wanted to stay in Athens for a few more years. I'm like, hey, law school is pretty good. So I went to law school, and then my first job was working for an insurance company, Progressive, doing all their car wreck stuff. So I don't know if I set out to do that necessarily. That's where the job was. Back then, you kind of took what you could get.
Sure.
Worked for great people, was on the defense side, learned a ton. Went from there to a bigger defense firm, and then realized after 14, 15 years that working for the individual was going to be the better spot, and not just defending the corporation.
Yeah. So what year was that, roughly?
Graduated law school 2004.
2004.
So I did 2 years for Progressive, which was great. And then from 2006 to 17 or so, worked for a large defense firm, and then switched sides, I guess 7, 8 years now. Goes by fast, doesn't it?
That is crazy. Yeah. So you started the firm roughly in a time whenever your firm, in a time where the market was not great, right?
Well, 2020 I started it, which then became COVID like 3 months later.
Okay, you were working for a firm before that, so you started, okay,
I was
gotcha.
2017. I joined with a buddy of mine, worked for his firm for a couple of years, an up-counsel role, learned kind of how to do the plaintiff side of it.
Right.
Felt like I got a little more bona fide, on the plaintiff side. And me and him still were in the same office space, great friends. 2020, I decided to open my own firm, and then March is when COVID happened. So there's never a perfect time to start a firm. That's what I tell people. And I felt like if I or somebody can get through those kind of hurdles, then kind of be good with anything.
Yeah. So what was it like working for a friend, or were you working for or working with?
We were working with each other.
Yeah.
I had my own firm that was up counsel to him. It was great because he had established, solid. I was on his website. That way people associated me with his firm. Like, okay, well, Josh knows what he's doing based on what these firm results are, that kind of stuff. And he just showed me the ropes.
Yeah.
I felt pretty good about, I can try a case, I can take a deposition, I can do discovery, but there's so much stuff, as you know, on the plaintiff side that they don't really teach you in law school. There's the business side of it. They're dealing with the clients, the lien stuff, things that I had no experience with. So he helped me and walked me through that for a couple of years. And then I felt good enough to do my own. And now I've got somebody working for me. I say working for me, with me in the same kind of role I had with him. So kind of doing that exact same scenario. And this guy worked with me for a few years, and then he'll probably do his own thing.
Were there ever any talks about partnering up?
I mean, I guess we could have done that. I always kind of wanted my own thing.
Yeah.
Back to my dad, he's a dentist. He was a solo business owner, small business owner. So that was kind of, I think in the back of my mind, always the direction I want to go. I loved having partners at the defense firm, but I love now just being by myself, being solo, because it kind of goes back to what you led off with, which is it allows me to be beholden to only myself and only do the firm I want, as opposed to if you're with a partner, with your friend, you're like, well, I got to do certain things to live at mine in the bargain with him or her. Not that I was worried about that, but as I sit here right now, I'm happy it's just me.
So you have the power of hindsight now, but what would your advice be to people, so law students that are thinking about starting a firm right out of law school?
I don't think that you can do it right away. I really don't. I think that there are certain tools that have to be learned along the way. I've seen people try and they've been successful. I've seen people start their own firm, go back to working for somebody, and then start their own all over again, which that's good too. I think there's no wrong way to go about it. Sure. I just think it's important to have a mentor, have somebody who you can look to say, this is how things are done. Because pricing law is overwhelming and being a business owner is overwhelming. And so if you start doing both right off the jump, that's a lot to digest.
If you were to do it over again, would you start on the plaintiff side or on the defense side again?
I would do on the defense side. I tell everybody that, if you want to be a personal injury lawyer, trial lawyer, I think, and maybe just because it was my path, that working for the insurance companies first, if you can work for the in-house counsel for them first, what better place to start? My first day, they gave me, all these files, and it's like, they're all worth less than $25,000. They're, soft tissue car wreck cases. You can't mess them up. They're like, go to magistrate court, try these cases, take depositions. They'll settle for between $10,000 and $20,000, and that's it, so you do that for a couple of years, get your experience. And then that next job, I came in with a bunch of trials on my belt, with a bunch of depositions on my belt. And then now I can kind of use what I learned with the insurance companies to my advantage, and how I craft settlement demands, how I make arguments, how I talk to adjusters. I think people need to think long and hard about how they communicate with adjusters. I hear people yelling and screaming and calling names and all this kind of stuff.
It's so silly.
And it's so silly. And maybe 1 out of 100 adjusters deserve that. But most of them, they're just trying to do a good job. They're trying to get to the end of the claim just like we are. So until they give me some reason not to be kind, I've just found that's the way to go about it. And I think part of that is because I used to represent them. And so I know that guy's a jerk. We ain't going to go about trying to help him resolve this case. If there's a small bridge, we've got to, got to pass. Like, why are we going to help him?
Well, if you think of like everything's sales, right? So if I'm trying to convince an adjuster to pay me more money, what good is it going to do for me to berate them over the phone? It just, even if you're right, think about that on the other side. Okay, they've got some lawyer yelling at them. Do you think they're really going to want to pay more money now? No. It's just human nature. It doesn't make any sense.
Absolutely not. I mean, what I've started to do, if I feel I'm in that situation and I want to get off my chest, because there is power in getting off your chest, right? I'll tap out an email and I'll just never send it.
Sure.
And I'll just let it sit there. And then the day goes by, the next day goes by, and that kind of anger has passed. And now we get our eye back on what the goal is, which is get the case resolved for our clients, right? I always tell people that on the plaintiff side, I think that we underestimate the value to the insurance company of a settlement release.
Sure.
They want that too, right?
Absolutely.
And so how do we kind of accomplish this mutual goal where our clients want the case settled, the insurance companies want it settled? So let's work together if we can to get there, not being so antagonistic. And I think I learned that from all my years on the defense side.
So I'm a little surprised that you said you'd go back and work for the defense side. And the reason why is because, and maybe this is colored by my experience where I did get to work for an insurance company before I was a lawyer. So I had to understand the inner workings of State Farm, which was great. And then I guess I also got the trial experience from being a criminal defense attorney early on. So that was nice because, I mean, being in a courtroom is just so important early on. But the problem I've seen is when we've tried to hire former insurance defense lawyers, like rewiring their brain is almost impossible sometimes, where like they get in that mindset where nothing is a case. And so how did you get past that?
we call them true believers, right?
Yes,
They drink the Kool-Aid. And there's plaintiffs lawyers like that too, by the way. So I'm not saying it's just
this is
defense
a
lawyers.
$1 billion case.
Yeah.
You got policy limits 25,000 is what that case is.
Some people can't be, right?
Yep,
and I think that's just that person for whatever reason is just designed for that job, and that's great. I mean, the insurance industry, they needs those good advocates as well. So I think you have to just identify the ones that the person who's worked for me, Derek Cooper, his background is identical to mine, coming from the defense lawyer world. And he just realized after a certain point in his career that he wanted to make the move and start doing plaintiffs work. And it took him, he's 6-9 months in, and you can just see each day is kind of the lights flickering on a little bit more. He's thinking about it in a way, oh yeah, that makes sense. So it's kind of cool when that moment comes. The other thing I'd say about working for the insurance companies, working for bigger firms, are just the people who you're exposed to, right? I mean, I work firm with 100+ people. Sure. And so now I've got that many more contacts, that many more stories from back in the day. Oh, remember that case? I've found, at least in Georgia, most of the plaintiff's offices are smaller. And so the people who you work with are just a smaller pool.
Sure.
So my network is just by definition bigger, which is helping now in referrals and those kind of things. And again, it's like going to Braves games with folks from 15 years ago. I always say, like, remember when is kind of a fun conversation. Some people say that's like, sorry, conversation. Remember when? I disagree. Yeah. I love it. Remember that case back then? It's fun. It's fun to me.
No, I mean, I agree. So I think that's an interesting perspective. I think that is important because you do then build those relationships where it might help you get cases done now that otherwise you might not be able to.
For sure. I think it gives me a little more credibility with the defense lawyers I'm working with. I'm like, look, I did your job for a long time. I understand how you're looking at this case. I would be too if I were you, but here's the other perspective. Okay. And then also I think it gives me some credibility with cases. If I'm going to take the case, they know that it's a case, right? It's not frivolous. It's not, something like that. It's not, nothing there. So I think that I can kind of use that to my advantage as well. Insurance company adjuster, I tell them, look, I used to defend these cases. I know exactly how your evaluation letter was written from your defense lawyer. Here's what he's not considering.
Interesting. Okay. I mean, listen, I don't know if I'm convinced yet, but I'm leaning.
How much time we got?
Yeah. I'm sort of understanding the perspective more. So I think that makes sense. But I do think I agree with you though about it's. Yeah. Could you do it? Could you start out of law school? Yeah. But there's just so much. If we just kind of take each component, like you got the legal side of things, you've got the business side of things. There's so much just within those components that just starting right out it's such a hard thing to do.
I have a friend who is very good at business. He's very good at marketing. He's very good at being a lawyer, probably a lot like you. Those people are hard to find, right? Like I call that kind of a unicorn type of an ability. And so you're not going to know which of those three or all of those three you're good at until you've kind of done it. And so, I always thought, like, give yourself a little time to figure out who you are. I have friends that love the business side. They don't want to touch a case. They don't want to touch anything else, but they will run the law firm all day long. I have other friends, they just want to litigate the case. They want to try the case. Don't let them look at a profit and loss statement. They won't know what they're looking at.
No.
So you have to figure out, like, how to bring those characteristics together. And if it's a partnership or whatever it might be, I think that's the key to making a successful firm.
Yeah, a lot of law firm owners that have been doing this for several decades probably don't even know what the main financial statements are.
That's right.
So that's I think that used to work. I think you used to be able you throw out a shingle and hang your shingle and you do really, really well. But there does seem to be like this trend towards these larger firms that are coming in, throwing a bunch of money into the market, and it is going to make it harder for some firms to compete, I think.
I think so. You got private equity that's throwing money out there. You've got just these firms, as you said, they're just combining with one another. I mean, Atlanta is one of the most competitive personal injury market in the country. You start looking at what Google charges for different keywords.
Right.
Like, how do you keep up? So, my approach is like, we'll use Morgan & Morgan as an example. Like, there's no way I can keep up with them. So why try? And so I think as a law firm owner, you have to realize and figure out, like, where do you fit? I call it the ecosystem. Where is it that you fit? And then just kind of stay in that lane, find that sandbox, play in that one, and don't say, I'm going to compete with Morgan & Morgan for keywords on Google, because you're just fighting an uphill battle.
So have they been in your market your entire career?
When I started doing defense work, they were just coming in from Florida, their Orlando firm. Yep. And so they started coming in Atlanta. And ever since then, now they're, I mean, I don't know how many offices they have in Georgia, but a lot.
Sure.
And so, we've seen that shift of other firms kind of following national type firms. And so it just increases competition, which is good. But I'm selling my clients on something very different than what Morgan's selling their clients.
Well, so does it increase the competition in the market as a whole? I think, yeah. But because like what we've seen is we've actually noticed since Morgan & Morgan came into St. Louis is our number of calls have decreased, but our number of cases have gone up and our conversion rate has gone up, where I think they're picking off different cases that we wouldn't normally take. And so I think that's part of it.
I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And I think I would agree with everything you just said. They're going for different stuff. I mean, the volume, they're going for any call, anything that comes in the door. That's not you. That's not me.
Right.
And so, you just got to figure out what it is that you want.
And I think that the way they do it is it's really brilliant. They've got one of the greatest trial lawyers ever, right? And Keith Mitnick. And I think that's smart. A lot of the volume firms don't have something like that, but Morgan & Morgan has figured out that is a really important part of the puzzle. Mm-hmm. Whereas a lot of the other firms, I won't mention any of their names, but their volume firms, they don't have that trial lawyer that's going to then go and take the case into trial and beat the insurance company over the head. They just don't.
Yeah, that's right. They get good lawyers over there, no question.
Yeah. So talk about that part of the business, because trying cases and like getting those results is really, really important. So how do you balance running a firm with making sure that you have that part of it too?
You have to, right? I mean, like when these insurance companies are evaluating your ability to pursue the case, they've got to see your past results,
sure.
Right? I mean, you're never going to get the reasonable amount of a settlement number if they don't think you can take it all the way. We're seeing fewer and fewer cases go to trial. There's no secret with that. But what we look at as is not necessarily how many cases are going to trial, but how many cases are we building up to where if the number wasn't the right offer, is ready. I mean, I settled a case last week and the stack of depositions were this high, and they knew that if they didn't pay it, like everything was ready to go. So I kind of look at it that way. Like they look at my background, they know I've tried cases. That's on my website. That's what's important to me. That's what I tell young lawyers is you've got to just show them you can do it. Don't take the first offers, those kinds of things. Get the case ready for trial, take the depositions, get the witnesses, video the depositions. That's the small thing that people overlook. I always felt that if a deposition was important enough to take, it's important enough to video.
Yes.
And if you're not videoing it, the other side's like, well, they're doing this just for some kind of a show. Like they can't really play this for a jury. It's not going to have the same effect. So, if the video is important enough to take, it's important enough to video.
I couldn't agree more. Well, so it's pretty easy in Missouri to record a depot. You can record your own. So you can, I don't know if you can do that in Georgia, but in Missouri, you can record your own. You just show up.
Yeah.
It's a little different in Illinois. Illinois is not as easy to do that. We don't have the same rules, but Missouri, like you can literally just go and set up the mic, your camera, use a phone if you wanted to, and boom. For some depots, I've actually just set up a tripod with my phone and have the mic, and it does a wonderful job. Mm-hmm. It really does. And the bigger ones will hire a company, but you're 100% right. Where like the insurance companies do it without the video for the most part because it doesn't matter as much to them. They're just doing it to go through the motions to bill.
Yeah. But
we can actually use that testimony and play it to a jury, and they're not prepared for it. It's such an advantage.
Yeah, what I found most helpful about that is at mediations, right? Because you have an adjuster that's, I don't know if they attend in person for you, like that's less and less now since Zoom has become so prevalent. But the adjuster is going to be there listening to you, and as much as I think defense attorneys do a good job, I don't always trust that they give the perfect information to the adjuster.
They don't.
And so I feel like it's my responsibility to make sure the adjuster understands. And
sure.
So what better way to do that than at mediation to play a 15-second clip that's it, right? Like whatever the evidence is from the corporate rep or from a witness that just seals the case, I can very easily just click it. And I'm like, Mr. and Mrs. Adjuster, this is what the jury's going to hear. Don't take it from me. Don't take it from the mediator. Don't take it from the lawyer. You come to your own conclusions about how this is going to play. It's pretty powerful stuff as opposed to just reading it from a transcript or just saying, hey, look, I talked to this witness.
Sure.
This is what they're going to say. So it's doing the work to get there.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to shift gears because I'm sure that the non-injury lawyers don't want to hear us talking about injury stuff all day. But from a marketing standpoint, and a key a networking tool for you, I think, that may set you apart from other people in your market is your podcast. It's Sports and Torts, which is it's such a wonderful name, and it's where you'll have a guest on. They'll talk a little bit of the legal mumbo jumbo, and then you'll talk about sports. So tell me about that. How'd that originate?
I think it came from you, actually, in some roundabout way. Okay, I mean, we can probably play the 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon separation, but Stephen Levkoff, who's a mutual friend of ours, who I've known forever, he had a podcast. And I'm like, that's pretty cool. And I think he might have gotten that from you. So if that's the case, thank you, because that was a driving factor.
I'll take credit, but I don't know. I don't know where he got it from, but I know that he started around COVID. I know we've had our podcast since 2016, so I don't. He probably got the podcast from. There's been a billion podcasts.
Well, you're in front of me. I'm giving credit to you.
There we go. Perfect.
So I'm a big Braves fan, big Georgia Bulldogs fan. 2021, they both were making big runs to the World Series and now championship, and I just had this like burning desire to talk about it. Not anybody cares what I think, but like I just needed to do it. So I'd get on, get my phone and be like, Game 6, this person's pitching, whatever. I really enjoyed it. People seemed to like it. Then that came to an end. I'm like, well, what can I talk about now? Like there's an itch that I had scratched that I needed to continue scratching. And I'm like, how do I do it to where there's a work angle where it actually makes some business sense, right? And so I'm like, how can I marry those two? And so that's kind of how it came up with. I asked 5 friends. I said, look, I'm going to buy the equipment. If you can commit an hour to sit down, and we're going to do like 30 minutes of your practice. We're going to do 30 minutes of kind of your hobbies, your sports interests. Let's see how it goes. Like, sure, man, let's do it. And so I did 5, and people seemed to like it. And, 4 years later, here we are. And it's just a lot of fun. I mean, I just love doing exactly what we're doing right now.
Is it like a weekly segment? Is it a monthly segment? How often are you doing it?
Weekly. I'm not as smart as you to try to batch these, like,
Well, you can't with sports, though, because it's so topical.
It's topical, yeah. So I do once a week, and, it's this week, Tuesday at 3:30 at my office, and whatever it is, and they come over, and we usually pour a drink or whatever, and just kind of have a conversation. And so, I take off between like end of May and August for the summer. Other than that, though, I've been pretty good about, every week for the last however many years getting episodes out.
Have you been able to do that? Because that's not the easiest thing. It was whenever it was me and Jim, it was nice because it was like having a running partner, you both got to show up. So how are you able to do that by yourself?
Made it a priority, like everything else. We can fit time in for things we want to do. Period. Hard stop. Right. And so I just told myself, like, this is going to be a priority as long as you still enjoy it. Right. And as long as people still listen. So I haven't checked like my metrics to see, who's listening or how much, but I know people are talking about it because when I see people, that's always the first thing that's brought up. So it's a great conversation. And it's a great break from the week. I mean, I feel like it's a good like hour to just hang out with somebody, strengthen a relationship, meet somebody new. The cool thing now is that people are reaching out to me to want to come on as a guest, which is awesome on several fronts. Most importantly, I don't have to go chase people down.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's like, hell yes, come on, let's do it. And then I meet new people and they introduce me to people. And so it's been a really good thing.
I can't stress to you how easy it used to be able to get in 2016 when we started to get a guest. It was super easy. And now it's just different. I wouldn't say I would say it's more difficult for a variety of reasons. One, many people think that they're being potentially scammed, but that they're being invited onto some random especially if like they're outside the legal industry and they've never heard of Maximum Lawyer.
Yeah.
They're like, who are these people? So it's sometimes they just we'll reach out in multiple channels, but they just don't. They just don't think that that this is legit or something.
Yeah.
But you've got many people that want to be paid, or and I don't know if you've encountered this yet, but you've got people that'll reach out to want to be on, but what those are usually, not always. I'm saying, make sure I'm very clear about this. Not always. Those are usually the worst episodes where they just want to come on and sell something, where we've just like not aired them. Like just like, okay, you came on with an angle just to try to push your own stuff as opposed to adding any value at all. So that part, but it used to be like you'd send an email and, oh yeah, sure, I'll be on your podcast.
You nailed it. I used to get, and I still do get excited when some random company or random person reach out, they make you feel really good. We've seen your podcast, we've listened to it, you're an industry leader, blah, 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 blah. They haven't listened to it, but whatever.
So with that, what they'll do is, this is just sort of inside baseball. They'll pull one sentence from one episode, and then you'll get them on the show, and it's very clear they've never listened to the show.
That's it.
Yeah,
no, that's totally it. Yeah. So I'd fall for it, right? Like they got me in the hook. I'm like, oh, they've stroked my ego. Those episodes are the worst because there's no cohesion with the person. They've got their own angle. I had one where the guy like was late and he canceled. I'm like, dude, you reached out to me. Like, so I've kind of gone a different direction with that. And it's people that can be in person, can be with me, can have the hour. I will do it over Zoom, but that's like last resort. Like I think doing this is so much better if you can. And so most of my guests are local Atlanta people. I mean, it's become mostly lawyers in Atlanta because that's who's there, that's who's close by, that's who can get to me, that's who's listening. It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, what is it, like 70% of communication is nonverbal, and that's why we went to this more like in person. Not all of our episodes are in person now, but I mean, I don't know, 90% of them on the Tuesday episodes are in person. So you get this back and forth. We went to that more longer format where we can talk as long as we really want to. And so if we go dive into a topic, we can just keep going on it. But what I did find was like we've got usually when it's like a Zoom sort of a setup or Riverside is what we recorded, you are limited by time. You can only get to so much. You can't really dive deep into things. That part's challenging. I love the back end. That's why I flew to Atlanta.
I was about to say, I'm super impressed with you to fly to Atlanta to do this because I think it's just so important. And it allows such a more free flow of conversation. I mean, my hardest thing is limiting it to, I say 45 minutes to an hour. And I want to keep going.
Sure, yeah.
I want to keep going. But, they say, and you probably know this, 44 minutes is like the maximum time because it's like the average commute to work is 22 minutes, time home is 22 minutes, and people can knock out an episode.
Right, yeah.
I always felt like 20 minutes by the time you say, hey, what's up? How you doing? Like, that's gone.
It's gone.
It's gone.
Time, yeah.
You go over an hour, people are like, I don't think I'm going to invest myself in this podcast.
Yeah, there's a couple of episodes where Jim and we asked one question and the person talked a lot. So it was like, we try to keep them right around 30 to 35 minutes at the time. And it was like, it was you couldn't go deep on anything. It was like, wow, that's gone in no time.
Tough spot for you to be in too, right?
Really is.
You don't want to interrupt the person. By the same token, in your mind, you're like, okay, time's ticking. Like we want to get to something else.
Totally. So from a marketing standpoint, has it been effective? I mean, you've gotten attention from it. Has it led? Can you connect the dots between the work you've done and then the clients?
I think that if I were to say, where did this case come from? I could connect a dot and say, that's because this person's on my podcast. Our relationship is a little stronger now. He or she trusts me with this referral. I think I can do that.
Right.
Probably several times over. Can I say some random person heard the podcast and was like, oh, I think I'm going to hire Josh? Probably not. But what I think is even more powerful is like people in Tennessee or South Carolina that have reached out to me. Now I've got connections in those states, which can be even more important. Like when they have a client that's driving through Georgia to the beach, getting a wreck, like they're going to call me now.
Yeah.
And so I think that is pretty good. People can believe this or they can't. I can't control that, but the monetary result of the podcast is just an added bonus.
Sure.
Right? Like I don't look at it as how can I monetize this? I look at it as what a great way to spend an hour this week,
Yeah.
And that's just true.
So I do believe it because the part of the reason why we changed the format is because I wanted to this is what I wanted to do. Like, you know what I mean? Like it wasn't because I thought we'd make more money. We actually probably lose money doing it this way. We could probably make more money with Maximum Lawyer, but we spend the money to do this because I enjoy it a lot more. So I completely get it.
Can I ask you a question on that?
Of course.
Sometimes I worry that it might actually cost me money because people are like, is all this dude doing is podcasting?
Yeah.
Like, is he still focusing on doing the casework and is he still a trial lawyer or is he just this wannabe podcaster? I think it's almost sometimes maybe backwards. I could be wrong about that. Do you ever worry about that?
I do, and that actually, and it may be an unfounded fear, but there's a reason why I don't post a lot on my personal Facebook page about Maximum Lawyer, and because I know that we get a lot of clients through Facebook, and so I intentionally do not want the perspective to be, oh, Tyson's just this marketing guy,
Yeah.
So that's why is because I I am hesitant, and that's one of those things that might be unfounded, but I have that fear. So I have zero problem posting about Maximum Lawyer on X or on YouTube, but when it comes to like Instagram, or actually I don't have any problem posting on TikTok either, because I feel like TikTok is so different, and it's funny. I don't ever get on TikTok, but we post on TikTok.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's not connected like Facebook is, where you can connect the dots from Max Law to Mutrix Firm to my friends and all that.
Yeah.
TikTok's like you have these like silos almost.
Isn't that
and
so
that's
interesting that the social network platforms all speak a different language?
Yes.
Right. And understanding that is kind of part one. I mean, I agree with everything you just said. I mean, TikTok is just kind of out there and you put it out there and people see it, but they're not going to be like, oh, that's this and this and this. I don't know, man. It's wild. It's like I said in the beginning, it's a crazy time that we live in. I think people that understand and utilize the power of social media are the ones that are going to get ahead, right? I mean, it's like first it was the website and people were resistant to that. Well, now can you imagine not having a website? No. Then it was social media channels. Like, oh, I'm not going to do that. Lawyers are above, that kind of stuff. Can you imagine having social media channels? Then now it's probably going to be, AI, chat GPT. Oh, I'm never going to let a machine do my job. So it's like you always got to kind of follow those waves and do your best to not be the last one on it.
What do you think is going to be the next thing when it comes to getting clients?
Getting clients? I think that this AI stuff, if people can figure out how to marry AI and SEO, which I probably won't be able to do well, I think that's going to be the ticket. I think it's going to bring down the costs of hiring these marketing firms that are going to do all your SEO for you. I think there's going to be AI platforms that can do it way cheaper. Having said that, till the last day I practice law is going to just be a community marketing lawyer. Mm-hmm. Have them know me, like me, trust me. So when the time comes that they need someone like that, they're going to think of me. Now that might be the way of the dinosaur, but that's what I'm going to continue to do.
So there is, I was watching something the other day, and I'm not going to be able to give credit to it, but they were talking about how you got everyone knows no like and trust at this point. So especially if you're listening to this podcast, no like and trust. What people do, the mistake they make with social media is they go no, and that's it.
Yeah.
So they get people to know them, but they don't get the likable part, and maybe get the likable part. But the most important part is the trust. Yeah. Because then, okay, no like and trust. Now I'm going to call you because I trust you to handle my case. And they skip out on the other two, which is an interesting part of it. And have you ever thought about that?
I do. And I think the only way that you can do that, number one, is to be authentic in yourself for the like part, right? If you're trying to imitate somebody else is doing their thing, some dancing TikTok video, like if that's not you, then people are going to see that. And they're like, that's kind of weird. And the trust thing, I've always thought you just give people kind of free information, give them the answers to their problems without them asking you for it or with anything in return. To me, that's how you build trust with somebody. Right. And so my videos, I'm like, okay, what are problems? What are issues that my clients are facing or potentially going to face? And how can I just tell them in 45 seconds, if your car's totaled, this is what's going to happen? I think that, or I hope that's how you can start building trust with people.
Yeah, so Gary Vee and Alex Hormozi, I've heard them both talk about it recently when it comes to like 2025 and marketing and all that you're going to see less of the dancing lawyer kind of a thing, and you're going to be more of the, and I would say almost going back to, they didn't say this, but going back to leading with value, because I feel like that's the way it used to be. I feel like when social media started out at first, it was, lawyers giving advice on certain things, and that's what's going to kind of be going forward, where people are going to be going to these specific channels to look for information, and then they're going to go find what they're looking for.
I hope so. Guys like me and you will be benefited.
Absolutely.
That, right? Yeah. And if Gary Vee, God knows if that's, he's been pretty ahead of the curve every step of the way. So I'm glad to hear him say that. But I think that hopefully that continues to win the day.
Yeah. So let's dig a little bit more into your career a bit. And so take me to a time or some sort of moment that you realized your career path was about to change, and maybe drastically. Was there a specific spark that made you say, I need to do things this way, or I need to make a change?
I got smoked in a trial.
Oh, okay.
Smoked in a trial.
Were you on the defense side?
Yes. And it was a combination of the facts were terrible. My client wasn't particularly helpful in everything. And I didn't do a great job.
Insurance client or actual client?
The actual client.
Okay.
Yeah. And I didn't do a great job. Not that I didn't try, but I didn't feel like I was totally vested because I'm like, this sucks.
Yeah.
right? And we got smoked, and we should have gotten smoked, quite frankly. And I compared that with the case that we did really well at trial. But going back, I felt terrible when we lost, of course.
Yeah.
And then I had a case that we did really well, and I liked the client, and we won the case and saved the insurance company a bunch of money. And all they cared about was, how much did you bill us? And can we start cutting your bill, for this too much, whatever it might be. And I'm like, thank you would have been just fine. So I had those two experiences, kind of opposite experiences, right? And I'm like, I don't think I can do this for the next however many years. And so I think that was the spark that was like, I want to be more in control of the case. I want to be in control of the client. I want to be able to choose my clients, right? If I don't like the person, if I don't like their case, like I just want to be able to tell them no. On the insurance defense side, like the client is the client is the client. You're going to take the case. So all those things together led me to make the move. There's never the perfect time.
Yeah.
Come up with 1,000 excuses. My kids are too young. I got private school. I got a big mortgage. That's always going to be the case, right?
Yeah. Were you married at the time?
Yeah. I mean, I was married. My kids, I can do the math, but they're probably 8 and 5.
That's a really important time too.
I was too dumb to know, I guess, right? Like I was too dumb to know. I'm like, this is going to work out. Like, of course it's going to work out. Not that I was like conceited. I just think I was like, yeah, this is going to work out. And if it doesn't work out, guess what? I still have this law degree. I still have all this experience on the defense side. I'll come crawling back, and I still like all these people. They like me, and I'll just come back, tail between my legs, be like, all right, guys, I tried it. Can you hire me back? And they probably would say yes. So if you can minimize your risk, which I'm always looking to do, at that point, it's like, go for it.
Yeah, it's interesting how you put that, because I think some people might say, "Oh, you're being fearless, you're being brave." You put it a little differently. You're a little harder on yourself almost, but that it is a bit of a superpower. You call it whatever you want, but it is a bit of a superpower to be able to just say, "Yeah, it's risky. Oh well." You know what I mean?
Oh well, yeah. Buddy of mine, his quote is, "So what, now what?"
Yeah.
Something doesn't go work, so what, now what? And so if you look at it that way, it's like, look, no one can take away my ability to go try to make a living or raise my family or have a job. So try it. As opposed to 20 years down the road when you're like, I should have done it. And now it's too late. Now there's no point to do it. Like my mentality wouldn't want to be on that side of the fence, right?
Yeah, you're clearly like a very positive person. You've got that nice. It's a great mindset to be able to kind of move on. Hey, have you encountered any struggle when it comes to your career or your firm where you're like, I don't know if I'm going to make it?
I think we all do, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think we all do. I think that every January 1st, you say it starts at 0 and let's roll again. So I think that anybody that doesn't is probably kidding themselves. And I think owning that fear is probably healthy, right? I mean, I think that causes you to want to continue to succeed and have the drive and all that kind of stuff. I think goals are a funny thing. I think sometimes people feel the need to put like numerical goals or something in place for reasons that are, I don't know, to appease a marketing coach or something. I don't know. My goal is simply January 1st of next year, I want to keep doing the same thing. So whatever it takes to get there, that's what I want to do. And then I want to keep that goal for every year until I don't need to do it anymore.
So let's talk about that a little bit more then. Let's dive in some goals. Do you have any goals?
You heard it. I mean, it's be in a financial situation where next January 1st, Josh Stein Law Firm is still open for business. Okay. And however it takes to get there, that's what I want to do. I don't have a goal of like, I got to have this much in revenue or this many clients. You would probably shriek at the lack of metrics that I look at or
maybe
or KPIs, those kinds of things. I never got good at that. And so I'm like, do I have to? Yeah. And the answer probably is I should. But at this point, it's like, I don't want to invest the time to go back and do it, which I realize is wrong. But at least I can understand that and own it. I don't
know if wrong is the way I'd put it. But
yeah. So it's I've got my 2 paralegals. I've got, my other folks. I've got this lawyer now that's of counsel in my firm. I'm happy with this setup. And let's just keep clicking off the months.
So what I love about you is how happy you are. At least you seem happy. Hopefully you are happy. I love the fact that it's like, you're not saying, hey, there's a way, there's a right way, there's a wrong way. It's like, this is just your way. I think that it's quite a relief. I'll be honest with you.
Well, I appreciate that. And I hope that's how I feel. Right. And it's hard to try to put out the outside noise and just do it your way. But there's some happiness that comes with that, right?
Yeah.
God, we're so lucky to be doing what we're doing. I mean, I look at all the jobs out there, and the fact that we're fortunate enough to do this one and get paid pretty well to do it. It's like, what's there not to be happy about?
Yeah.
Right?
Do you practice? I mean, you've mentioned, you've not said the word gratitude, but you've shown gratitude several times already. Do you practice regular gratitude where you're like, every morning you wake up and say you're grateful for 3 things, anything like that?
No, I don't do that. No, I don't know, man. I mean, I feel like there's 2 ways you can go about living life. You can live it in a good way or a bad way. And that's very like black and white. But if you look at it that way, like living in a good way.
Yeah.
I mean, we have a lot to be thankful for.
How old are you?
Born in 1979. So what does that make me? 45. I do the math every single time.
You're a few years older than I am.
Yeah.
Have you thought about what you want your life to look at like when you're like 65?
Yeah, I think that a lot because I don't think I want to be doing this for 20 more years.
Oh, okay. Let's see. All right. I want to hear more about this.
Well, just because I think it's going to change a lot. I mean, tort reform is coming in Georgia. You have no reason to follow it, but tort reform is coming. That's going to change the landscape.
Well, I mean, they've been trying to gut us for 15 years in Missouri. So we follow it religiously.
So you live through it.
Yeah.
I mean, Georgia's bringing that pretty good, and we'll find out. I don't know if this is going to air, but we're going to find out probably in April. So that's going to be changing. I think that, with the self-driving cars, with all the other things, like I think just our industry is going to change a little bit.
Yeah, I agree.
I want to figure out a way to do what you and me are doing right now and do that.
Yeah.
Like I said, my favorite hour of the week work-wise is doing these podcasts. And so if there's a way that I could somehow do that sounds pretty darn good to me. My kids, or my daughter is a junior in high school. My son's in 8th grade. So they'll be in college. I mean, less than 5-6 years. And that kind of changes the dynamic too a little bit. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Is your wife, or is she on board with sort of your mindset on things? I do wonder if do you get pressure from home? Like, hey, get the firm structured, set goals. What's that like? I'm gonna start a little fight here. Let's see.
So she works for the firm.
Oh, okay.
She works for the firm.
Fantastic.
I mean, she's our office manager. She writes all the checks. She handles overseeing all the marketing stuff. So, I mean, I don't want it to sound like we're aloof, right?
Yeah.
We have a very good structure in place. I mean, she loves it. It gives her the flexibility. She works from home. She goes to the gym at 8:30 to her, whatever the class is. She's home at 10. She can work till the kids get home. Like, it just works for everybody.
Yeah, the freedom that you get from owning a law firm is just, it's hard to beat.
You can't go back, right?
No,
I mean, you can't go back. I mean, that goes back to my Glover years. Like, if I had to, I'd go back and work for a big firm, but like, I really don't want to have to do that.
So you don't want to be doing this in 20 years, which is, it's such an interesting thing. A lot of people, they'd love to be able to keep doing this for 20 years or so. Like, I've really kind of sat down and thought about, like, this is what we want our life to look like, that we want to, here's where I want to live, or maybe you're going to stay in the same house. I don't know. Like, I wake up at 8 a.m., I got to do this. Like, have you thought about all that?
I think when I said I don't want to be doing this for 20 years, I don't want to have the pressure of every day, every month, every year to be cranking out a profitable law firm. I think that there is a dream scenario where my website, my contacts, my firm is all up and running, and we're still taking on, the good cases that we want, but just being super more selective about it. So I think that is a scenario, but maybe I don't think in 20 years I want to be doing that, but probably 10 or 15,
Sure.
Look, I've never lived anywhere but Georgia, so I don't know what else is out there, but my family's here, my friends are here, so I don't see myself leaving anywhere. I don't know, play more golf, be on the boat more. That sounds pretty good.
So you don't have KPIs, right? Make sure.
Nope.
Okay. Because I do wonder, I'm going to try to push you, I'm going to try to convince you of some things.
Sure.
Now, I do think if you start thinking about that stuff now, where like you start to create these stepping stones to get to that point where you've got these systems where you can spend more time, I think it's going to help you a lot more than maybe you even realize at this point.
You're not wrong, and I know that the question of if I get hit by a bus tomorrow or like what happens, like I understand all of that.
Yeah.
So I'm not naive. If I sat down tomorrow, you could probably help me. But if I said what's gonna be the first KPI that I do, wouldn't even know where to start. Would not even know where to begin.
Right. Yeah, I mean, we could probably do an episode all by itself. But okay, so we can kind of walk this a little bit. Let's have a little fun little exercise.
Sure.
So, it would be helpful, I think, if we had a better idea as to what it looks like, when you want to kind of in 20 years or so, but let's say let's kind of pare it down. Let's go make this a little bit easier.
Sure.
In 3 years, what do you want things to look like for your personal life, your home life, your
same.
work life? Okay, exact same.
Yep.
Okay, so what's the one thing you need to focus on every single day, every single week to make sure that you're still doing what you're doing now in 3 years?
My word is consistency.
Okay.
That's a big word for me. That's showing up every day and doing the job. That's showing up to do my marketing stuff. I do 3-ish videos a week that I put out.
Yep.
Again, I think it helps. Don't know, but people will see them. That's doing those. That is doing my podcast regularly every week. That is doing good work with the clients, because if that's not happening, then it all tumbles.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's the house of cards that fall. And I think when you go back, not to change gears, I will answer your question, but when you talk about the shift in like the dancing TikTok lawyers, because those dancing TikTok lawyers aren't doing good jobs in their cases, right? They're focusing on dancing on TikTok. And so if you're not doing a good job on the cases, the whole thing crumbles.
Sure.
So I'm focusing on doing a good job, because then, every year my client base gets larger, which then expands the people that are out there recommending me when their friends or family, get hurt. So I just focus on that.
Right.
I don't want to hire more paralegals. I don't want to hire more lawyers. My mentality has always been that if I get too many cases to handle, I just keep increasing my threshold for size of cases, and the smaller ones I refer out to peers and let them do it. That's always been my motto. I learned that from a person who I joined up with, Andy Goldner. And so in 3 years, I guess my threshold will just be hopefully a little bit higher. And so the case I'm working on are just that much higher, and the ones I'm sending to other lawyers, will be lower.
So I guess for that to happen, then what you're going to need to do is making sure that you are bringing in clients on a regular basis, right? So what is that one thing you need to focus on then to make sure that those clients are coming in on a regular basis consistently? Because I think there's like a plateau, it seems, that some law firms hit or lawyers hit, where like they get to a certain age and then they stagnate, and then they start to see the massive decline in cases because they kind of stop marketing. So is there anything specifically when it comes to marketing that you need to be doing on a weekly or daily basis?
Yeah, I mean, so I guess I'm putting faith just in the process that continues going on. I focus 90+% of my attention on my community. So I live in East Cobb, which is a Marietta, just north of Atlanta. I was born there, went to high school there. My daughter goes to high school there. My son will go there next year. And so I sponsor the baseball team and the football team and the volleyball team and all that kind of stuff.
Nice.
And so I feel like if every year I'm still there, and every year just by, the law of averages, somebody in that community is going to get in a tough spot,
Right.
They're going to think of me. Like I'm not competing against anybody else for that particular group of people, because I'm kind of the only one.
What happens when they graduate? Are you going to keep?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think so. I mean, it's interesting because, in the 90s, I was all about the high school and the community. And then I had like a 15-year kind of break where I was not involved. But now that I'm back in, like, I know all the kids now. When my youngest son graduates, hopefully the couple, grades below him, I'll start to know them, and that'll get me more engaged. But, I feel good about it too. Like, I like going to the football game. This might be narcissistic. I like seeing my logo on the scoreboard. I like when, there's a batter up to bat in the baseball game and the announcer, Mark Aston, says, "This inning is brought to you by the J. Stein Law Firm." Like, I like that.
Yeah.
So it just feels good to me. And even my kids aren't involved, like, I'll probably still do it.
Okay. So, and we won't dive too much into the marketing, because I think we could go really deep and like, okay, these are the things when it comes to marketing you need to focus on. But okay, so we know that marketing is a key component, right? So you can't stop doing that. When it comes to the other side of things, you got to make sure you're doing a really good job in cases. Otherwise, that's going to go away. So what do you have to make sure that you're doing on a regular basis to make sure that you all are doing a just tip-top job on cases?
Yeah, keep our caseload small, right? Every client has my cell phone number. Every client has my paralegal cell phone number. And so if we have just a finite number of cases, it allows me to touch them every couple weeks. Like, it won't be 3 weeks go by that a client hasn't at least heard from me, like, how we doing, how we feeling, what's going on here. I can do that because I don't have hundreds of cases.
So the number one thing you need to focus on, I guess, is the number of cases.
Yeah, which has always kind of been my thing. So it's like I've found, and everybody's different. For me, like between 30 and 40 cases is kind of my sweet spot. If I get below that, I'm like, kind of need some cases.
Yeah.
I get above that, I'm like, too much. So if I can continue to elevate that ceiling, or I guess the floor of the kind of cases I'm getting without jeopardizing the number of cases I'm handling, then it should stay about the same. Now,
don't look now, but you're starting to develop some KPIs, even if you don't realize
if
it.
I don't write them down, it's not a KPI, right?
Yeah.
What's going to be interesting though is as the cases get bigger, of course, the time you spend on them gets more. And so 30 cases of one category is different than 30 cases of another. So that 30 probably becomes more like 20.
Yeah.
And then it becomes more like 10. So yeah, I guess you have peeled back my onion to get to my KPI without me even knowing it. But that's kind of how I look at things.
Do you think there might be another number or something else you can look at to make sure, other than number of cases, something else that might indicate the health of the firm?
People say how many calls you get a month.
Okay.
Right. I've never tracked that because some months are just way different than others. What I've found, and this is junk science, I found when I settle 2 cases, 2 calls come in. Okay. It's just weird that way.
Yeah, that's definitely junk science.
It's weird that way.
Yeah.
I've found if I turn down a questionable case I probably didn't want, a good case follows it. Junk science, but I'm going to, like I said, I'm going to keep kind of going down that path until I can't anymore.
Better be lucky than good.
Maybe.
Do you ever look at average case value?
No. And I know that I should. And that is because I've had a couple like massive outliers on both sides that I think would be kind of skewing it.
Yeah, you just have to throw those numbers out.
Yeah. If I did that, then I probably could. I mean, so I know the sweet spot of where I think I'm best case value. Okay. Yeah. I think that a case that has between 100,000 in value and $1 million in value is my sweet spot. That's where I think I really do the best job. There's people that $5 million cases, like they're just better than me at it. Yeah. I could do it. I don't have the dozens of multi-million-dollar verdicts behind me that can really pump those up. But the cases that are $100,000 and less, like other people that should be doing those too. So I guess you found another KPI for me.
Yeah. Well, I like to us, the most important number is average case value. It really, because we can look, it gives a really good idea, an indicator as to what the things we're doing. If it's, if it starts to go down, okay, why is it going down? Mm-hmm. Is it going up? Okay. Why is it going up? We have a really good indicator as to that. So I think it would be, especially since you've got a certain threshold of cases. Let's say that your average case value is cut in half, then you're going to have to take on like double the cases.
So I could pretty easily go back to my office today and go from 2017 to 2024 and give you that exact answer.
You should do it.
Because I've got every year is, okay, this many cases, this is my total revenue. I could do all of that. So I'm happy to do that. That's probably a pretty good exercise.
Totally should. Yeah.
So the question I have for you then is, we'll get calls on cases. We'll talk to them. We'll go through whatever the process is and decide it's not a case.
Yep.
I still put that in the same closed file folder. Do you include that in your average case value, or do you throw that out?
Okay, so 2-part question, because you know how you throw out the highs and lows. So track 2 numbers. You'll track all of them. And I don't. The ones that we investigate, and we said this is not a case. I don't include that. Mm-hmm. But if we lose like a motion for summary judgment, I'll include that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Or if you get a verdict and it's 0, I include that. So those ones, yes, I include. The ones where we investigate, I treat that a lot like if you do a micro intake and someone on the front lines says it's not a case, that's how I treat it. It was never a case. Mm-hmm. But if it's something where we put time into, invested into, where we're like, file suit on it, then if we end up getting 0 on it, that's a 0. Yeah. But you throw those out whenever you're talking about the highs and the lows, mm-hmm. right? And so you have to do both, 2 numbers.
Can I make your skin crawl even more?
I'd love to. Yes, let's hear it.
I don't have any sort of like case management system.
I've always wondered, because here's what's funny. 10 years ago, I don't know how that's possible to do. Today with Google and the way they've got Sheets set up, you could build out a case management system without any issue that's connected to Zapier or in all these other automations, that you could actually run it from a spreadsheet the way Google is currently sitting. It is fascinating that the developments that they've made with Sheets. But I don't know how you are able to do this. Do you have paper files, or how are you able to manage your cases?
No paper files. There's no
Okay.
paper in the office.
Okay.
So the only paper we keep are deposition transcripts, the sealed ones, right? Everything else I get electronically sent.
Yep.
Dropbox and all the Microsoft tools.
Where do you take like notes on cases?
We create a Dropbox folder. And so I can do it a couple different ways. I can do it on my Surface and I can type it in or draw it in. I could just do an email and put it in. I could do a handwritten note and scan it in. I have one of those Plod AIs. You know that?
Yeah.
Which has been great. I mean, that's amazing.
I want to ask you more about that in a second.
Yeah. So that'll plug it in. So for me, if I have 30 cases, I've got 30 individual Dropbox folders. It'd be Jones, Smith, whatever. I do identify the folder by where it came from. So I know this is a case that came from this particular marketing thing, or this came from a referral source. So I do that. But yeah, then everything is in that Dropbox folder. And then my wife is really good with Excel. She's really good with all the Microsoft Office stuff. And that's how we keep up with everything.
I'd rather you do that than like have something like super complicated system that you don't use or that is too complicated.
Keep it simple, stupid. Isn't that right? Keep it simple, stupid. And so that's what we've done. If I had 100 cases, couldn't do it. Totally understand that. When I was in a defense firm, we had Pro Law and it was amazing. You would type in things, it would auto-populate, probably like your Zapier stuff you do. I totally understand the benefit of all that. I just don't want a firm that requires that.
Yeah, you don't have the benefit of DocGen where you're like drafting a letter. It just populates everything that you
Copy
need.
and paste, man.
So you do use templates, so that's good. At State Farm back in the day, we had templates, and it was like note templates, which I thought were really great. Where I didn't have to copy and paste it, but I actually did borrow some of that for like our stuff, where it would pop up and it would say, I'm just gonna make up something. So because I worked in fire claims, so let's say it's a there was a fire at a house, and it might say, if there was like a note, it would have all these different categories. I had to fill out each category, who I spoke to, what we talked about, and they have like a bunch of yes or no questions. Did you do this? Did you do that? Which are things like that are pretty helpful. Do you do anything like that?
You know what I think about when you say that? I think about the Bobs and Office Space and TPS reports.
That's funny.
That's what I think about.
Okay,
it's a problem with me. I understand that. I absolutely recognize that. I think about I'm creating something for the sake of creating something, as opposed to just doing it and moving on to the next thing.
Right. How do you know if a case is on track?
This is going to make you upset too. In my head, because we have a small amount of cases, I look at every Monday, I'm like scanning my cases and saying, okay, what needs to be done here? What needs to be done there? I really do have such a good grasp of each one of my cases that it's kind of like that spider sense where like this has to happen. I mean, what I've found, quite frankly, and this, I'm not patting myself on the back, but I move at a faster speed than the defense does. I get frustrated because I want to do things in my cases and the defense isn't ready to do it yet. And so I'm almost being stalled on my stuff, which then leads to them being, okay, Josh, now we're ready to do this, which allows it to happen, if that makes sense.
No, I mean, I think that does. And it sounds like you have good balance, or you really do. And it sounds like you don't have too many cases, which is fantastic. That's something where it's a big logjam. Who's on your team? You got your wife, you got an associate. And
well, he's of counsel, so he has his own firm. I've got a paralegal.
Okay.
And that's it.
How does your paralegal or your wife know what's in your head?
I have to tell them.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so Melissa is across the hall, and this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
Here's an email. This is what we're doing. And she's to the point where she knows, when you open a case, like the 5 things you have to do. I guess I have written those out, come to think of it. Like before we hired our first paralegal, I did put a book that's like, this is how we do things.
Yeah.
But because I haven't hired anybody in however many years, like I haven't had to revisit it, right? So she knows, like, okay, this is how the contract looks via DocuSign. This is health authorization. This is the open records request we send out. This is the letter to the insurance company. This is the letter to the carrier. Like, go down the list, and then this is to get the pictures. This is to get medical records. This is to get medical bills. So like the process is there. She doesn't need me to tell her to do it. The complaints we file, it's like standard car wreck complaints are pretty similar, right? So we've done 1,000 of them. So, I mean, copy and paste might make you kind of, make you as well. But like she copy and paste one, but the other, she looks at the police report, This was September 10th. This was the county. This is the plaintiff. I tweak it for the specific facts of the case. Takes no time.
What percentage of your week are you personally dealing with like returning client phone calls or text messages or emails?
I do all that.
So what percentage of your week or would you say you do that?
Again, we don't have a ton of clients.
Yeah.
And so we're kind of reaching out to them like the calls I don't like or the texts I don't like are when it's, hey Josh, what's up with my case? Haven't heard from you in a minute. Like,
so you're not doing a lot of that then? So you're more proactive.
We're proactive.
Okay.
Yeah, we're proactive. And as I go back and read my Google reviews, that's what people are. Yeah. We really appreciate Josh's being upfront with us and keeping us up to date and telling us what's going on, our expectations. Like that's what we pride ourselves on, is that you're not going to be out there for 3 months wondering what in the world's going on in my case. That's what we hear is the number one complaint from all these clients, right? So like I can easily control that. Text message takes no time.
Right.
Dictate, we just sent out the request for medical records. Usually takes around 30 days. We'll let you know when we get them. Once they get back, we'll be up put the demand together. Period. Done.
I think what this shows is that there's no right way of doing anything. There's really not. You'll have a lot of people say, well, this is the way. Like you've got to do these things. Otherwise, you're not doing it the right way. And I really don't think there's any right way. There's not. I mean, I think there's, I could certainly come in. I think we could probably improve some, like your life a little bit, with some of the things, but that would require technology and all that. But you're happy. Your clients are happy. You're getting good results. And if you're on track to hit, your vision for yourself and your family, then there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I don't doubt you could come in and do that. Probably wouldn't take you very long. I know in real time when I'm doing something I shouldn't be doing.
Yeah,
I know it. Don't care. It's what I want to do.
Sure.
If I like putting a settlement statement together for my client because I like to see exactly how it's going, I know my paralegal could do that and should be doing it, but I like doing it.
I think you're very atypical of most law firm owners, though, where they don't want to be doing some of that stuff, and they do it because they feel like they have to, as opposed to because they want to. I think that's the difference.
I think because they were told they couldn't do any other way.
Maybe you know what it could. Right?
It's like this is the way the widget's made, and again, I'm not saying I'm right. I'm just saying it's what has kind of morphed for me, and it's what's.
It's right for you. So the AI device that you're wearing, what's it called?
Applaud. So I'm not wearing. I should have worn it today. Actually, I should have. So I wear it in my podcasts. So I don't know why I didn't wear it today. I wear it on my client meetings, and it records everything that is being said.
So everything throughout your day, is it recording?
When I turn it on.
Okay, so
when I turn it on, yeah.
That was a big question I've had, like, because I've seen these on Facebook and all over the place. So you have to activate it, and like you just push a button on it
on your phone.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can wear it as a bracelet. So I've never used it as like a sneaky thing. Like in Georgia, you could. I mean, Georgia's a one-person consent to record.
Missouri's
state.
Like that.
Yeah. So if I wanted to, I could be sneaky and wear it. But I that's not my purpose for it. So my purpose is I wear it, either as a bracelet or you wear it around your neck. And so my podcast, it will record the whole thing, which will then summarize it for me, which will then allow me, you're going to like this, put it in Chat GPT as the transcript, which then can make a small summary for my social media posts or my summaries in the actual podcast thing. So that's been very helpful. When I meet with a client, I wear it. And then the cool thing, it will give you action plan items. I don't know how it does this, but it'll read your transcript and it'll say, based on this, you need to go do X, Y, and Z. Which is pretty cool.
It is.
And so, I've just kind of begun to use that as a tool. And it's been very, very helpful.
Ring Central as a tool. Do you use Ring Central for your phones? So they've got something where you can, it's AI transcription. I have it like set to like auto record, so I don't have to remember to hit the button.
Yeah.
And at the end of it, it'll say like, it's like to-do items or something like that. So it does say like, Tyson said he would do this, client said he would do that. And that's really helpful.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, so the days of taking a paper note, I don't think we need to do that anymore. And it's pretty inexpensive. I mean, I think it was $160, something like that. I mean, the hardest part is just keeping it charged, but it's nothing.
How often do you have to charge it?
I mean, I just keep it charged in. It's just kind of my thing at work, but I think you could probably get several hours of use out of it. I mean, I've never run it for more than an hour or two at a time. I've never had a problem. But yeah, Applaud AI.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna have to check that out.
Yeah.
This is not sponsored by Applaud, but maybe we'll get that sponsorship.
If someone gets a good use out of it.
Maybe you get some money from it. But So, I mean, you've spent a lot of time talking about like designing sort of a practice that fits your lifestyle. I mean, have there been any sacrifices you've had to make to do that?
I probably could make more money.
Okay.
I probably could have more cases. I probably could hire more people, and stroke my ego that I've got this big practice, all this kind of thing. So I probably missed out on, certain big cases where the client was like, yeah, that firm's probably not the one that we need to hire just for the mere frontage part of it, right? Just for the perception. So I'm sure I've missed out on some of that stuff.
Does that not, I guess it just doesn't affect you.
What am I going to do?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, what am I going to do?
Have you ever been tempted to kind of like shift gears and go, oh, yeah, maybe we'll get some more automations built in. We'll take on more cases. Have you ever been tempted to do that?
No.
Wow.
No.
Good on
Sorry,
you.
man.
No, this is fantastic. I love it. I love the fact that you're happy in your skin. You're happy with what you have set up. I think that's great. What then? Does anything ever keep you up at night?
It used to keep up a lot more. I mean, I feel like I'm banking on what I have done in the past that will continue to work in the future. And again, that's leap of faith. That's whatever you want to call it. But I feel like I position myself now through hard work from the beginning, right? That it's going to keep working.
Yeah.
It's going to keep working.
So you and I are young enough that there's a possibility that autonomous vehicles are definitely going to be in full force. I mean, with AI, it could be in the next 10 years. I mean, was it 10 years ago? They were saying in 5 years, they were going to be all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
It's not even close to what they said it was going to be. But with AI, the advances could be, I mean, much faster, I think. So I haven't quite digested how we're going to navigate that. It's a tough thing because other than pivoting to another practice area, I think there are still going to be injury cases, but there's just not going to be enough to feed all the firms that are out there.
You're right. So the way that I have thought about protecting myself is by doing what I've done with my overhead in my office.
Yeah.
And as long as I'm lean and mean and small and don't have 6-figure obligations coming up however often, I can weather kind of whatever changes have to be made, right? The Morgan's world, they're gonna have a hard time. They have that kind of office space and that kind of personnel and that kind of overhead, like that would keep me up at night. And so what I've tried to do is if I keep that low, one of them being my wife, right? Then it's not gonna, I can handle a downturn. I think our jobs as we know it in 10, 20 years will be very, very different, which is why I said in the beginning that I probably won't be doing this in 20 years. Every year that we keep cars out there banging into each other is another year I could click off, I think that there'll be a wave of self-driving litigation. I think that's going to, be a however many year process. And then once we get through that, I think there could be some tough times.
Right.
I have tried to not focus on just auto accident cases. Another KPI, I guess I can talk about, that's probably a third of what I do.
Really?
Yeah. And so
wait, your car crashes are only a third of what you do.
Probably 30, 40%. Yeah.
Wow. That's a shocking number. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I came from a world where I defended retail and restaurant, hospitality industry. So slip and falls, those cases are probably that, and dog bites, and actually daycare cases are probably the three, and negligent security cases.
I just settled a daycare case on Friday.
Yeah. So did I.
Nice. Congrats.
Yeah, thank you. Congrats to you too. So, the car wreck cases are always going to be probably the bread and butter, but it's not all that we do.
Yeah. I've always not understood the hesitation that a lot of firms have when taking premises cases, where you have to file suit on more of those than a car crash. That's for sure. But they are usually pretty serious injuries, and you can make really good money from them.
You know why? Because they're harder.
They are harder.
Because they're harder.
Yes, yeah.
Because it requires the lawsuit. It requires taking depositions. It requires fighting a summary judgment motion. As opposed to a car wreck case, someone runs a red light, it's done. And so they're just harder. But, what I've found is if you vet those properly, and we vet what out of them, because you can get in a bad spot fast. They're good cases, and there's always plenty of insurance coverage. The injuries, if someone falls, they break their leg, like it's a big injury case. You usually get pretty sophisticated defense lawyers. That's what I like about them as well. Like,
that's true.
You usually get better defense lawyers that understand how to evaluate a case. And that's another thing. Like, my mindset about defense lawyers has shifted completely. Like, I want the good, solid, seasoned,
Interesting.
as opposed to like fresh out of law school, like deer in headlights. Like, I don't want that. I want the good defense lawyer who's going to understand the cases.
Yeah, I think that makes sense because you have, because I know it sounds like we're talking about legal stuff, but we're really not. This is a business thing too, because what happens is, you hinted at this before, where you'll have the bad, we'll say less seasoned attorney giving bad advice to the adjuster, and which then on a case that should settle does not settle until either they get new counsel or you have to try the damn case. Whenever the more experienced attorneys will be like, yeah, this is a good case, just pay it. You need to pay them.
That's it.
Yeah.
And the defense lawyer has the credibility with their client that says, hey, I've been doing this for however long. Like, I've seen everything. This is one you got to pay. And they're like, yeah, that guy knows what he's talking about.
Right. Yeah. So what's ahead for you then? You've got the torts and sports and torts. Is it torts and sports or sports?
Sports and torts.
Sports and torts.
Yeah.
Any other?
Well, the first thing I'm going to do is invite you to come on my podcast.
Deal.
I mean,
I had an idea when you were talking about it. Not to cut you off, but I want to make sure I give you this idea.
Yeah.
Where you may be already doing this, so it may not be a good idea. Yeah. But like having a lawyer from a town that Georgia's playing.
That's it.
Is it, you already doing that?
So yes and no.
Okay.
We try.
Okay.
I have an offshoot called College Football's Last Call, which is we do it just in the fall season.
Yeah.
And we recap the Georgia game from the week before. We preview the next game, and then we talk about just the college football landscape on the whole. It's like a 30-minute show, me and two buddies. It's so much fun. And we have started to bring on people, just like you mentioned, like a Florida fan, or I did a back and forth with some lawyers in Texas that we went back and forth, and I was on their podcast talking about Texas.
See, that'd be so fun.
So when we play Missouri next year, I hate to put you off until next fall, but we'll do it. We'll do it in the fall.
That's fair. Yeah.
And that's great. I mean, that way you're bringing someone. My whole thing is like, if you get someone talking about what they're really passionate about, it becomes good content. And like,
are they any good at basketball this year?
Georgia gonna make the dance.
So there's a chance we'll play each other in the dance.
Yeah,
slim chance, but there's a chance.
So Mike White, our coach, said yesterday that the SEC this year was the hardest conference in the history of college basketball.
At one point, 4 out of the top 5, I think, or 5 out of the top 6 were SEC teams. I mean, it's Mizzou, and here's the thing, like Mizzou, I was just talking about Mizzou a few minutes ago, because the previous guest was a Vanderbilt grad, and they started this skid, the 3-game skid that Mizzou's on, where we've lost 3 games in a row. Should have never lost to Vanderbilt, but like Mizzou, if they would have beaten Vanderbilt, they would have been a top 10 team.
Yeah,
and then all of a sudden they lose 3 in a row. But it's because you've got the SEC is just it's
murder's row. Yeah. So like by way of an example, again, we're recording this middle of March. I'm not trying to give away your secrets about time, but
no worries at all.
The tournament selection committees is a Sunday. And so I'm already thinking in my head, like, okay, who are 2 people that are going to have, connections to their team? And that's what I do the podcast with. So one of my buddies is an Auburn guy. I text him, I'm like, hey man, Auburn's being number 1 seed. We're going to do a podcast next week about this. I'm assuming Georgia gets in. If they don't, we're not doing the podcast type thing. But like, so your idea is what I'm thinking about too.
I love it. Okay, so last question for you. Okay. I want you to imagine that you were able to send yourself a message back to when you first launched your law firm. Okay, the very first day. What would you write and why?
I would say something about ignore as much of the outside noise as you can. Stay true to whatever type of firm you want to set up. Know that there are multiple different ways to skin the cat. Figure out the way you want to do it, and keep your head down and go to work every single day, and stay consistent.
Why is that?
That's what I've tried to do, and that's what I've tried to do. And I am content and comfortable with where it has brought me to. And so if I'm happy where I am, wouldn't I want to just try to replicate what got there? Now, if I made mistakes, sure. I'm not sitting here to say I've done everything right. I've done more things wrong than right. But I think if you follow those kind of core tenets that I laid out, at least for me, that's where I've found success.
Thanks for coming on the show, man.
Yeah, man, I appreciate it. This was great.
Yep.
Good conversation.
Love it.
Thank you so much.